You ever see one of those ads from a company on Twitter or Reddit or whatever, and you just decide, why not, and click it to see what it's all about? And then on the next page, you glance down at the price, and then you look at your bank account and start spiraling, thinking about the crushing weight of capitalism bearing down upon you, leading you to the inevitable conclusion that money is fake. There's this common misconception that you need to spend a lot of money on the best tools to make good art, and more specifically in the field of music production. For instance, one of the most sought after and popular VST plugins out there is called Omnisphere. The TLDR is that it's a software synthesizer made by Spectrasonics that generates sound, and it has a lot of fancy features. The base version of Omnisphere costs $500 with no add-ons, which might sound insane to some people outside the music production world, because with $500 you could buy a new phone or like a 4K TV. And Omnisphere is just one plugin in a single category of tons of different plugins. You've got wavetable synthesizers like Serum, $189. You've got sample library plugins like Contact, $299, plus literally tens of thousands of dollars worth of sample libraries on a page that seems to scroll endlessly. Then you also have ROM synthesizers like Nexus, $249, plus $4,000 worth of expansions. And these are just some of the sound generating plugins. You also have effects with things like equalizers, distortion and saturation, or vintage effects that start all adding up to absurd costs. And all of this is before you factor in the fact that you have to buy a digital audio workstation to even use any of these plugins, which also can cost hundreds of dollars. It's honestly just an endless sea of plugins that all try to get you to think that by buying their plugin, it will make your music the best of the best. And even after you sort through all of that, there's then the hardware side. There's MIDI keyboards, microphones, audio interfaces, speakers, and the list goes on and on. There are even hardware-based synthesizers that will cost you more than a car if you really want to get crazy with it. And very quickly, it can start to feel like before you're even able to start making music, you need to make your way through a fucking maze of products that all have a huge price tag. But here's the thing, I don't think any of these are bad products by any means, and in fact, most of them are great at what they do, and they all have a place in the industry. But do you need them to make good music? I think the answer is a resounding no, but it might feel like the answer is yes at first glance because of how easily our human brains are exploited. The first problem, I think, is the bandwagon effect, where major artists and producers endorse expensive products and say that they're essential to their workflow. And this isn't really unique to music production. A ton of different industries do this, where they'll get celebrity endorsements, and it makes you feel like to be successful like they are, you need to buy the product that they're advertising. YouTube series like the Genius Deconstructed videos often show the producers in those videos in million-dollar studios using expensive plugins and equipment. A viewer interested in music production might come to the conclusion that if a guy that he watches on YouTube that he likes has all of this expensive gear and software, that he needs the same stuff to make good music like they can. To be clear, I don't think there's anything wrong with using expensive stuff or even endorsing them, and I personally love Genius Deconstructed videos, but I think we should be aware that we can be easily influenced by this type of content without even realizing it. We also have to contend with a concept called the familiarity principle. People are way more likely to stick to buying products from a company that they know well rather than one that's kind of unknown, even if that product is better or cheaper. On top of all of that, it was actually kind of true in the recent past that only the wealthy, or if you had a label with money backing you, was it possible to get studio time or to afford expensive equipment, and this has only changed in the recent decades. This is also why piracy in the music software business is totally out of control, and I don't really blame them for doing so either. But I also think that you don't really need to pirate software or pay an arm and a leg to make good music in the modern day. There are so many free and low-cost tools out there made by awesome people and companies that can make music that sounds better than anything you would think is possible with something that's free or really cheap. Some of the most well-respected and famous musicians and artists in history have made entire careers off of using a laptop and some crappy headphones just making music in their bedroom. The most obvious example that I think comes to mind is Billie Eilish, who might be one of the most famous people on earth right now. Her brother Phineas produces a lot of their music with Logic Pro and just some $200 Yamaha speakers, and they have songs that have billions of streams on Spotify and that everybody loves and don't even question the quality of. Even artists and producers who have been in multi-million-dollar studios like TM88 or J. Cole have also made some of their most popular songs ever in hotel rooms with a laptop and some shitty speakers. If you take EXO Tour Life by Lil Uzi, for example, that beat was made by TM88 with a Beats pill, which might be one of the shittiest speakers imaginable. There are so many different massive names in the industry who you would expect to always be recording in some crazy studio, but actually make a lot of the music at home with a more modest setup. And while I'm more familiar with the music world, this type of stuff happens in other areas as well. There's a bunch of YouTubers who use really expensive equipment like a DSLR camera or a computer that costs more than your car. But just like with music, all you really need to get started and succeed is a crappy webcam or your phone camera like I'm using to record with right now, and a $20 Walmart lapel mic, and you'll be good to go. Let's take the YouTuber I Did a Thing for example. That dude started making weird inventions on YouTube on a shoestring budget, and even though he can afford expensive stuff now because he gets millions of views, his videos are still him making some of the most ghetto looking, barely functional contraptions out there, but the videos are still awesome. I think the most extreme example of this is this guy named Pat who was featured on the Vox YouTube channel that writes novels for young adults. This dude is absolutely nuts and draws every single one of the illustrations that are in his books with MS Paint. Just look at some of these drawings and tell me that they don't slap hard as fuck. All of this is to say that if you want to make something cool, don't let anybody tell you that you need this or that product that you can't afford to stop you from making cool things. The ideas behind the art and your personal creativity are going to be what makes people like what you make, not a $10,000 paintbrush. So I think I would be doing a disservice to you guys if I didn't point you in the right direction of some free or affordable stuff out there to make music with after ranting about how expensive things are for 10 minutes. Firstly, free digital audio workstations out there like GarageBand and Cakewalk can make some of the most insane music that you've ever heard, and they're just as powerful as a lot of the paid DAWs. If you want to spend a bit of money, there's also Reaper for 60 bucks if you don't make more than 20k a year on your music. But here's the kicker though, it doesn't matter what DAW you choose, they're all going to come with a ton of high quality free effects, samples, and instruments. Sadly, a lot of these stock plugins don't get enough credit for biased reasons, like that they look cheap or they came with the program so they're kind of seen as beginner tools. But in reality, a lot of these free stock plugins are just as powerful, if not more, than any third-party plugin that costs thousands of dollars. If you want to venture out into downloading third-party plugins, I'll leave a list to a truckload of alternatives to paid plugins that are completely free to use. As for music hardware, you couldn't be living at a better time in terms of quality that you can get for the price. Again, I'll leave a list of some links to hardware that's affordable in the description, and none of these companies of these products are sponsoring me. I just think they're good products that are affordable that more people should be aware of if they aren't already. I hope by now you've realized that music, or really any other art for that matter, isn't about how you make it or what tools you use. It's easy to get lost in all the noise about what software or product is the best, but don't let that distract you from the big picture. You can make some awesome music with whatever tools you choose, and if you make something great, people won't care about what software or instrument you use to make it. They'll appreciate it for what it is, a song that they connect with. Thank you guys for watching, stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.